So in a video a little while back, we talked about putting one of these little wireless dongles onto the Raspberry Pi Zero. Now, what do you know? The Raspberry Pi Foundation have only just released a little Raspberry Pi Zero with Wi-Fi on board. How very frustrating. And they're only going to cost about £10 or something like that. Still, I've got two of these damn boards, so we're going to be still doing it anyway. Now, there's a couple of issues. We'll talk through them really quickly, and then we'll get to snapping this to pieces and soldering it to here. I've got a little diagram ready to do that. But problems with doing this. So you want to have you want to have wireless on this board, but you also want to be able to program it. You also want to interact with it. Unfortunately, there's only one USB. And when we use up that USB, which is this one here, those are the two data lines just there. Let's zoom in a little bit. So when you use up these two data lines just there, that's PP22 and PP23, then you stop being able to use it for USB devices. That means you can't plug in a keyboard or a mouse or even one of those little wireless dongles so that you can use an all-in-one type deal. There's a deceptive connector over here that's not USB. I think that's some kind of JTAG deal. And then this one over here is power only, this other USB. So what does that mean? Well, it means we're going to have to SSH into the device. And to do that, we're going to have to already configure our Wi-Fi. It's the Wi-Fi supplicant file. I think that's what it's called. We'll get into the details of that on the computer when we get to it, but for now we're just dealing with hardware. So we're going to go ahead and do this, and we'll change the SD card in either another Raspberry Pi, or we'll try and figure it out on Windows. But we're going to go ahead and put this on. I think I've got some wire, some sort of color-coded wire. I mean, not really. I'm not best known for color coding, but we're going to give it a go with some black wire for the ground. I only have this horrible solid core wire. I really wish I had some flexible stuff, so it would make it a little bit easier to route around. But this is what we've got, so that's what we're going to use. I don't mind if it's off the board slightly. I saw this, let's call it a hack. It is a hack, I guess. I saw this on hackaday.com. They'd linked to an article, so I'll give you a quick view of what that looks like now. So essentially he's tacked on this little Wi-Fi USB dongle thing and wrapped it up in Kapton tape and soldered onto the PCB itself. And that's just so it's essentially it's permanently connected. This is the diagram we're going to be following. I tried to draw it as closely as I could to the board, so hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm looking at here. So these two pads are the data plus and data minus lines. Those two pads just there. Probably better if I have a little bit more of a pointy stick. These two pads just here. And then we've got 5 volts and ground just there. Now, I didn't just go from the diagram that I saw on Hackaday. I also looked at some forums where they detailed what these pads were. So we'll be doing that now, I think. I'll turn my soldering iron on and we'll get started. First, actually, I need to cut some wire, don't I? Jumble around. Let's use Kevin, shall we, to do that, or at least try. I haven't used these yet, so I don't really know how they work. I'm assuming I just pop it in. Is it, and look, just pull? Yeah, I guess so. Well, that's fine. That's an all right size. And then it would be nice if there was a cutty section. So let's have a figure out of what size wire that we need. So we've got our ground, and that's going to be going to ground of this thing. Oh, do you know what? It's probably best if we take this out first and then snap it to pieces to see what we're working with. I haven't tested this one. I'm just going to assume it works. I can always take it off if it doesn't. So we've got that there. So let's try and ease it out, shall we? By that, I mean just tear it to pieces. There we go. That's out. God, it is small, isn't it? And it's sort of stuck in there. Let's help it out a little bit. So we're just going to try and chop these bits off. Oh, the other way around probably. There we go. Done, that was easy. So there we have it. That's our little Wi-Fi board, and we're going to be soldering onto the USB connections just there. So that's good. Right, so we should probably figure out, well, they might be marked. Let's have a quick look. No, they're not marked, but we'll try and figure out with a multimeter which one is ground. I'm pretty sure 5 volts is there, ground is there, and this one here is D plus and that one's D minus. However, you never know. So we'll, I'll grab a multimeter and we'll check it out. Right, so this is going to be a bit of a weird way of doing it because I can't be absolutely sure, although I'm pretty darn certain that that is VCC. We've got ground down here and D plus and D minus. I'm not worried about the D plus and D minus. As long as I know which way ground and VCC are, I can work that out. So I think this one is ground, and I should just be able to probe around some of these capacitors to figure that out. So that one's triggered there, that side, but not that side of the capacitor, just there. So I can also try for, oops, a daisy. I'm throwing that around too much. I can also try for VCC. I'm pretty sure that was ground. However, that means VCC is the top one there. So if I flip that over and I just rest it on top of that other one there, oh, Mayday, come on now. I should be able to probe around what I think is a regulator just here. And find some connections. I'm not quite sure I'll make it. There's one just there. And there should only be one. Yeah, it looks like there's only one. I can't read what's on this tiny chip because it is too small, I think. Let's see if I can... No, I can't read the number on there. So I think that settles it for me. So the top one is VCC. It's only got one connection going in. So that's 5 volts going into the 3 volt 3 regulator. And then we've got ground, which is all over the place. And that makes sense. What we're going to do now is strip a few little wires and we'll sort of measure it out. So I want the board to sit roughly here. We'll try and move it away from any signal lines. We've just got a regulator there, so probably not, well, not the best, but we'll just pop it there, that's fine. So we want to get power over to PP1, so the top one over to PP1, ground over to PP6, and then those two signal lines, the data plus and minus, need to go here. Now, I did read in an article that data plus and minus should have the same resistance, so we should try and make those as the same length as possible. I may even use the same wire, but then again, I've got these two colors here, so I might use these two for the data plus and minus. And I may have, oh, I might not have red, but we might just have to use those for everything. Okay, oops, let's strip a little bit of this. I do like these, so thank you very much, Kevin. I'm not quite sure if I'm using them right, but they certainly strip wire nice and cleanly. I do have to have a fair amount to hold on to pull, but then I might not be doing it right, I'm not sure. So we've got some bits there, I'll have to trim those down a touch. And we're going to need a little bit for ground. Actually, we'll make them fairly long. Okay, I've just ruined that one. Let's try again. We'll make them fairly long. It can be standing off the board for now, that's not a problem. So we'll just make these slightly in order in length so that we can put them across. So they can be soldered on like that. That looks fine. We'll give them a little bit more length than they need. No, I don't really know how to use these. I mean, I did put them on my Amazon wish list, but I don't know if I'm doing it right. I don't think I am. I like them all the same. They might be made for large gauge wire, I'm not sure. Still, there we are. So those are our power connectors and our ground connector, and they'll be bent around a little bit. So that's those two. And then if we assume it's going to be around there, let's measure out for the data connections. So what I'll do is I'll make them longer than they need to be, but make sure they're exactly the same length. So that long looks fine to me. So they are technically longer than the power wires, but I'm not too worried about that. Okay. I have to get this weird technique that I've got going on now of using pliers to hold on to it. Close enough for me. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll start by soldering on the ground connection. We're going to need some blue tack. Right, so we're going to start off with this ground connection, and we're going to solder that right across there. So let's tin that wire a little bit. That's why I'll make use of the blue tack while it's here. Now some solder around here somewhere. God, the bench is getting really, the dining room table is getting really messy. There's just stuff everywhere now. So let's tin that wire a little bit. And we'll tin the pad slightly. There we go, and we should just be able to touch this. I'm going to have to use my cat hand though. Oh, mayday. That is sufficient, I think. It did sort of melt that blue tack, didn't it? It's not fantastic, but it's good enough. There's probably like a super simple way of doing this, but of holding all these bits together and soldering with my cat hand. There we are, and I'll solder this one on this way. Oh, do you know what? I could have just turned the board around. Don't write that in the comments, please. Right, over a little bit more. Come on now. Okay, fine. I'll put some more solder on it. Bloomin' heck. Well, do you know what? I'm annoyed by that, but it's not coming off, so that's fine. So Data Plus is the bottom one, so we'll go from this side for those ones. Do you know what I'm going to do? And it seems like an easy thing to have thought of just about now. It's just to use another bit of blue tack to hold this wire in place. Ah, okay, we'll do that then. Not quite. There we go. I don't even need to tin that, that's fine. Maybe, we'll see. It certainly means I can use my finger a little bit. There we are, look at that. Don't solder onto the wrong bit. That, well, I'd say it was perfect, but it's quite clearly not. Just the last, I said the last leg actually, we've got to solder onto the blooming Raspberry Pi yet. Bugger me, this is, I thought, you know, it's like Lego, it's gonna go together really easily. Not quite. There we go. And they still look roughly the same length, don't they? So I think we're all right on that standpoint. It isn't fantastic, is it? But it'll do. There are no solder bridges there. One of those wires is sticking up kind of horribly, but do you know what? I don't mind. I'll try and be as quick as possible as I can on these pads, because I don't really know what's around that I could screw up. Maybe too much on those pads there. So I've got PP1 is ground. Let's just trim those leads down a little bit, because that heat shrink will recede slightly. Do you know the Raspberry Pi Wi-Fi thing? Really annoying, isn't it? This project would have been a lot easier with one of those. This is the, I sort of forgot to say what I'm doing this for, didn't I? This is for that little TV. Why am I not heating that? There we go. No, okay. Let's add a little bit of solder onto that. Soften it up. There we are. That's better. And then we want ground to come over as well. Have to scooch it over a little bit. There we are. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to make sure I've not got any continuity between those two pads, because that would be awful upon powering the thingy up. No, good. No continuity over here either between those, or between, no, okay, good. Okay, next up is the data lines. We've got a little bit of a wisp of a wire there, if you can see that. Now these data lines, they don't need to be perfect actually. Let's just give them a quick twist around to make them easier to bend in as one. And then we'll try and bring them up. Okay, let's trim them off. There we are, that will do. And then that one needs to go there, so I'm going to get my hand in the way of the soldering a little bit, but that is fine. I'm quite used to almost burning myself. So we're going to put some solder on that wire and then readjust. Let's use a tool. I don't really have any good ones around here that would do this. What is that? Okay, that's perfect. I have a file. Ideal for bringing near circuit boards. Right, that one appears to be soldered on. We're good on that front. And then we've got one more, and it's a very close one, so we'll have to be very careful. So let's just tin that up. Ideally, you wouldn't do that right next to the joint, but we're going to. Ouch. And it isn't attached. Brilliant. Well, that is just horrible. Basically, I don't have the right gauge wire for this. Right, now let's check continuity again, because I've melted some of those wire bits, some of the sheath. Just checking it's working there. Okay, I think we're good. Let's check continuity with there, yeah, and good. That is done. Let's just take that off. And that. And there is our little modified board, and I should be able to just bend it over, hopefully, without breaking everything. Okay, good. that is the way it's going to be soldered in. It's not as pretty as the one that dude did, admittedly, but then, look guys, I'm a complete amateur here, so this is about as good as it gets. Right, let's go and figure out the software and plug the damn thing in. What time are we on? Okay, we're gonna make that part 2 because it is late, so and I need to get up tomorrow. All right, so thanks for watching. We'll continue this. This is gonna be going in the old-fashioned telly box that we've got, so it's gonna be going in that. Well, that's horribly out of focus, isn't it? There we go, fantastic. It's going to be going in this thing. So we've now got Wi-Fi on board. If I cut out this peg there, that's going to be for power. We'll throw this bad boy in. Bad boy? I'm not going to say that anymore. We'll throw that in and we're going to provide power to it with a lithium battery, I think, a lithium ion battery. So that's the plan. And this is how far we've gotten, me just ripping off someone else's idea. So I'll put a link to it in the description and we'll come back next time. One more thing, and I'm sure someone's going to mention it. They'll probably say, why don't you just buy the new Raspberry Pi Zero Wi-Fi? Well, I'm skint. This fancy camera that you're watching is on, this 4K beauty, is not mine. I'm borrowing it. So I'm saving up for a new camera at the moment. So no more electronics. No more buying electronics until that's complete. I wouldn't worry, I've got plenty of stuff. All that post bag thing I got the other day was from like a month ago, so I've got plenty of stuff coming in. I just need to buy a new camera because this thing can't stay forever. I can still afford whiskey though.